Hades is a wonderful game that depicts Zagreus' escape attempts from the underworld in order to reach the Olympus, and to do so, he gets boons from his godly peers that give him supernatural abilities. Unless you don't want to. Then it's just Zagreus with his weapon of choice. In this video, I am going to escape the underworld as Zagreus without using any boons. All me, baby. I am Landa, and this is Wild Rush. First, let's quickly recap the rules of this challenge. The main objective is to defeat Hades and escape the underworld without using any Olympian blessing. The thing is, the way this video game is designed forces you to pick up boons sometimes in order to progress. So here's the deal. If I pick up a boon, I will not use it for the rest of that stage until I can sell it. That means that if I have a boon that affects my special attack, I will not be able to use that move until I sell my Olympian power-up. If I die during the escape attempt, it's over. If I encounter a Chaos Blessing, then it is fine as the game does not recognize it as a boon. Neither it does for the Daedalus Hammer. You got it? Good. Let's see how it went. I began my first attempt being really lucky, as my first power-up was Daedalus Hammer, a perk that I can use for this challenge that is really useful. I decided to pick up Chain Shot, as I thought it would help me to clear chambers faster. After going through a couple doors, I picked up my first boon, Artemis' True Shot, which modifies my cast, and therefore, I will not use it until I can sell the power-up. The Tartarus didn't pose quite of a challenge, as the game does not expect you to have too much power yet, so the enemies were quite easy to defeat. I encountered my first Chaos Room, and, after thinking it for a bit, I decided to accept the Enshrouded Flourish deal, which made my special attack 66% stronger in exchange of not knowing the 4 next chamber rewards in advance. So basically, I got stronger for free. I kept advancing the underworld until I got distracted by a fishing spot, so I pulled out my fishing rod and waited, and then I waited some more, until... Hey! It's a catch! I fished a subscribe button. Be sure to click it or you're not getting dinner tonight. My deal with Chaos came into effect as I reached the first boss chamber, and I felt pretty confident about it. Inside, Alecto was furiously waiting to have a chance to send me back to Hades in pieces. I was really lucky during the first half of this fight, as my heart-seeking bow did crit damage pretty often, and I dodged beautifully Alecto's dashes and projectiles. The second half was a little bit scarier, as Alecto entered full rage mode and started throwing mid-giant spinning blades, and I had to keep dashing away and shooting her from a long distance. But in the end, Alecto the Fury was not much against my arrows, and I escaped the Tartarus. Right after selling the Artemis boon, I got way back at the beginning of my escape. Thanks for the help, Artemis, but I think that I can do this on my own. The Asphodel awaited me with its bone-crafted boats and pools of lava. The enemies here are tougher, and I started to feel the effects of not having any boons in my inventory. However, I kept clearing each chamber, and I even participated in some tough trials to get more money. Maybe Zagreus will get to become the god of greed and money if he manages to escape. Who knows? But that doesn't matter right now, as I reached my first unavoidable boon after fighting a lot of creatures in a giant ship. Aphrodite assisted me with a selection of her boons, and I picked up Crash Shot, as not using my cast ability didn't seem to be a problem while I was traversing the Tartarus. Soon after that, it was time to fight against Lerny, the Hydra that guards the gate to the Elysium. I used Sisyphus Rock to deal some initial damage and recover some health. The little Hydras appeared, and I destroyed every single one of them before continuing to attack Lerny. However, the Bone Beast wasn't as easy as Alecto, as I had a difficult time dodging its powerful stomps. I lost over half my health while clearing the second round of little Hydras, and I honestly felt at that point that maybe I was going to spend one of my 3 lives in there. I faced Lerny's final phase with just 39 HP, trying to play extremely careful and moving around him, and I barely managed to survive and put an end to him with a fraction of my HP left. I left the Asphodel, sold my Aphrodite boon as I don't need her to prove Hades what's what, and I went to the Elysium. So, this place fucking sucks. It is really tough even on a normal run. Regular enemies have a ton of HP, they deal a lot of damage, and they can even respawn if you do not kill them fast enough. It is a nightmare, only worsened by my lack of power-ups. It was painful, but using the bow as my weapon of choice let me play more defensively and avoid trading a lot of damage. I ran across another Daedalus hammer and picked up the piercing volley upgrade, which makes my special attack pierce armor with no effort. Ugh, this was a dumb mistake. You see, the point of all of this is to prepare as much as I can to fight Hades. Piercing volley is really helpful to clear tough chambers, but it won't do anything against the final boss of this challenge, so I should have picked up Perfect Shot or Flurry Shot, and both of them would have helped way more in the long run. But anyways, the Daedalus upgrade kind of proved its worth by helping me clear the mini-boss fight a lot faster. This pink sphere is a pain in the ass and keeps spawning enemies until you defeat it, so piercing its armor quicker kept things from going south. But even so, you can see how low my damage output is. How am I supposed to defeat Hades? By the way, while I was escaping the Elysium, I found Patroclus and his boyfriend Achilles. They are totally lovers, both in death and life, and I ship them so bad. I asked them to give me some jerky that raised my attack a whooping 60% during the next 10 chambers, so hey, at least my attack deficit was somehow fixed for the time being. After a little bit of chamber suffering, I arrived at the arena where Theseus and the Minotaur awaited me. I activated Sisyphus' rock as soon as the fight began to recover health and hit him both with the rock, but sadly enough I just got Theseus. In this 2v1 fight, I tend to focus on the Minotaur first, but in this escape attempt I could easily deal damage to both of them thanks to my chain shot upgrade. I wasn't at my prime though, and I felt it. I was unable to dodge many of their attacks at first, my damage output was insufficient even though I had Patroclus' boost still active, and only half of the Minotaur health was gone when I got killed by Theseus' spear. However, I defied death itself and kept fighting for my freedom, until a nasty combo of my adversaries took away my second life. Things were getting out of control real fast and I had to react, so I stepped up my game and killed the Minotaur, leaving me only with Theseus, and oh boy was that prick going to pay me back. I went crazy on the champion of the Elysium, playing always around him and his dangerous spear. Or that was until the motherfucker asked Daddy Zeus if he wouldn't let him a hen and the power of the lightning. Fucking amateur. Everybody knows that true champions do not resort to the Olympian gods. True champions pick up a weapon, start moving forward, and destroy anything that gets in front of them, even if they cannot defy death anymore. So I vanquished Theseus and sent him back with his deceased peers, but at a really high cost. I bought an extra life and went to the Satyr's maze-like chambers, hoping to find the right path as soon as possible, as I couldn't afford losing all that much before the big finale. And guess what? I reached the fountain on my second attempt. I returned to the Temple of the Styx to defeat Cerberus, and finally, I was able to escape the underworld and reach the beautiful snowfields of Greece. Only one foe separated me from freedom: the god of the dead himself, father of Zagreus, and the man with the coolest voice I've ever heard, Hades. Quick note here, it is really cool that the game acknowledges that you made it here without any Olympian assistance. I found that detail really cool. Here we go, I requested Sisyphus' assistance, but Hades is not a fool. He sensed the giant rock falling onto him, and he quickly dashed away. So this is it, huh? I will have to do this truly by myself. I started dodging Hades' attacks and shooting him as soon as I had an opening. The god of the dead was a formidable enemy. He dealt a lot of damage, had wide range attacks, spun tough minions to aid him, and his special ability makes you take double damage if it hits you. So yeah, I did what I could to put up a fight, but eventually I got caught and had to defy death one last time. This was my last chance. The ruler of the underworld was really close to perishing, but so was I. I dashed in unpredictable patterns to avoid his mighty attacks, lowering his HP just enough to be in range of a critical hit. I waited patiently for my opportunity until he missed an attack, I dashed away, charged up my shot, and boom! Critical hit. Hades was defeated and the boonless run was conquered. Or that was what I expected. Hades defied death just like me and went sicko mode, with new attacks such as the laser of fire and death, the stun green bases of bullcrap, and overall he was faster and tougher. He also kept blaming me like a fucking abusive father, telling me that all of this was my fault. As I barely survived with 3 HP his laser of death, I soon realized that my journey was ending here, at the gates of freedom and on Greek soil. The depths of the underworld claimed my body and soul, reminding me there was no escape. Or was it? If I wanted to find out, I guess I had to keep trying to escape. On my second try, I chose to use the Stygian Blade with King Arthur's aspect, as its huge AoEs are really good and its special attack is amazing. I picked up 2 Aphrodite bones right at the beginning, so I won't be able to use neither my call nor my cast ability for the rest of the Tartarus. I also encountered early a Chaos Gate, so I paid a visit to Nox's birthplace to see if I could get a good deal, and you know what? Getting more DPS in exchange of facing 30% more enemies is a bargain. I'll gladly take that any day of the week. I encountered next a weapon upgrade that raised my attack the more money I had, so it seemed natural to borrow some money from Charon, right? Wrong. He proceeded to beat the crap out of me and send me back to Hades' palace. I guess I deserved it for being greedy. Third attempt started similar to the second one. I decided to keep using King Arthur's sword and I crossed the Tartarus doing the usual, slaying enemies, gathering health and resources and avoiding using the boons I picked up. On this run, I faced Mech in a fierce fight, and after that I sold the boons I possessed, and I advanced to the Asphodel. I reached this hellish land with 260 HP, which is a lot. It is vital to make Zagreus tanky in this challenge, as fights will take longer and you are bound to make more mistakes. Either way, I kept advancing until I found a Daedalus hammer and I picked up the piercing armor upgrade. Once again, this is useful for clearing its chamber, but useless on the long run, so it wasn't the wisest choice. By the way, this is a good time as any to mention that to complete the boonless run, I resorted every now and then to buy items from the Well of Charon. This is vital to raise your chances completing your escape, but I won't be covering them unless a particular one is vital to succeed. So buy all of them if you have the money, okay? That is my advice. Anyways, I paid Learning a visit and immediately summoned Sisyphus to deal a lot of damage. But I timed it wrong and the rock didn't hit the Hydra. That was embarrassing. However, the boss battle went smoothly and the piercing armor upgrade proved to be really useful to take out the little Hydras. Can we also talk for a sec of how insane the damage of this sword is? Zagreus goes swoosh and the health of the enemy just pops out of existence. It is really, really good. It is time for the Elysium. I stumble across another Daedalus hammer and decide to buff up my Holy Excalibur. I also went fishing and thanks to my perseverance and precision, I caught a like button and a comment box. So use those and leave a kind message for me and Zagreus, will you? After that, I spoke to Patroclus, buffed up my attack and fought Asterius for a bit until he conceded. I kept gathering resources until Asterius the Minotaur challenged me to a rematch, this time with Theseus on his side. The fight went on smoothly, as Zagreus' pool of health in this run was very large, and his sword kept hitting both Theseus and Asterius. The Minotaur was the first to fall, and soon after that, Theseus tried to bring me down with the blessing of Ares, the war god. However, it was no use, as I stabbed him in the back and sent him to the depths of the underworld. I arrived at the Temple of the Styx with a pretty good chance of defeating Hades. I went fishing for a bit and caught a gop. Huh. Okay. I entered the labyrinth and kept fighting and fighting and fighting until on my 5th path taken, I stumbled upon the Satire's Fountain. I fed the doggy, and with 520 HP and 3 death defiances left, my confidence was at an all-time high. It was time to face Hades once again in the snowy fields of ancient Greece. The battle began and I summoned Sisyphus to deal some damage and replenish my health. Hades was as fierce as ever and I definitely couldn't avoid every attack he launched at me, but I tried to be especially cautious with his projectiles that make me take double damage. However, almost halfway into the battle, I was hit by one of Hades' casts and soon after that I received 80 damage, leading to my first death defiance. I tried to step up and dodge as best as I could, but I kept getting hit by the projectiles. It was really difficult to commit to my slow sword attacks without getting hit, so dealing damage to the god of the dead was really difficult. A thrust into Zagreus' chest made me defy death once more, and I quickly realized that I was starting to lose this fight. Hades was relentless and his attacks were often covering 3 directions at once. I ran out of Death Defiances with just 20% of Hades' HP remaining, and I thought that maybe I had a chance, so I gave it my all and started attacking furiously until the God of the Dead bent the knee. But soon after, he raised up again and struck me with all his might. I got stunned by one of the green jars that Hades summoned, and then I was annihilated by his laser beam. Another escape attempt that was prevented by Zagreus' own father at the gates of freedom. I began another escape attempt. I went back to the bow as my weapon of choice, as I believed that I had to switch my approach and try to slowly defeat Hades while focusing on avoiding taking damage. I crossed the Tartarus at lightning speed, crashing its halfway mini-boss, and I also got to see Thanatos. What a nice lad. A couple of chambers later I received my first Daedalus upgrade, and I chose to have the explosive shot that ramped up my attacks at the cost of needing extra time to charge up my arrow shots. This was precisely the thing that I needed, as the lack of damage output was what doomed me in my previous attempts. This time the final boss awaiting me was Tisiphone, and I dealt with her without getting into too much trouble, thanks to the mighty explosive shots that I was blessed with earlier. In the Asphodelos, I used Sisyphus to quickly defeat the giant Gorgon head, and I advanced through the magma and lava region until I met Learning again. By this time, thanks to all my consumables that I gathered on my way, a well-executed critical hit of my bow dealt around 750 damage, a huge hit that gave me hopes for the battles that awaited me. I quickly defeated the Bone Hydra, and soon after that, I moved to the Elysium. Once there, on my first chamber I stumbled upon a Daedalus hammer, and this time I had learned from my past mistakes. I decided to get the twin shot upgrade, so now my bow would fire 2 shots side by side, at the cost of having reduced range. This doubled my damage output and kept me dealing high numbers once the consumables fade away. Some critical hits even reached the 800 damage. I visited again Patroclus and Achilles and asked for some Cyclops jerky to buff my attack, and then I continued my way until I entered the Colosseum where the duo of champions was waiting, thirsty for blood. My HP pool wasn't as large this time, but my damage output of my previous run paled in comparison with the current one. The battle was a massacre. Each blow of my bow was devastating for Asterius and Theseus, with regular hits taking around 400 damage, critical hits dealing around 800 damage, and even some shots dealt more than 1000 damage. I used Sisyphus to recover some health and sent a pierced and broken Minotaur to the afterlife of the afterlife, so to speak. Theseus desperately tried to reach for Daddy Zeus, but my Carnac bow was no match, and a couple of twin shots later the champion of the Elysium was defeated. I entered later the Temple of the Styx and destroyed everything that dared to oppose me. I found Cerberus bribes on my third try, and once again, just one powerful foe was between me and my freedom. My own father. The snow silently fell as we faced each other, calmly building up the courage and determination needed to succeed. There was no need for big discourses this time, nor funny jokes or bold insults.
Right, this is it.
This was it. Everything would be decided in this battle. If I had to face defeat again, I wasn't sure I would be able to attempt to escape the underworld ever again. I felt it. Hades burned his cape and summoned his spear, while I charged up my bow and prepared for what was going to be a fierce battle. No holding back now. This time, my attacks were devastating though. My powerful twin shots put up a good fight against Hades, and the God of the Dead soon realized that on this occasion he was in danger. He summoned his minions to try to stop me, but with the help of Sisyphus, we soon were battling alone again, just the two of us. Hades went down for the first time without Zagreus defying death even once, but things were about to change. A deadly laser reminded me that this fight was no joke and that I had to be careful. I kept attacking with my devastating arrow shots and dodged every single spear attack or fire laser beam that Hades threw at me. Halfway into the second phase of the fight, I quickly received a lot of damage and defied death once to keep fighting. Hades desperately tried the same combo that defeated me last time, summoning the stunning green jars and following up with a deadly laser beam. However, this time I was prepared and I managed to barely evade his combo. Now it was my time. I dashed to approach Hades, went through him to get his back, charged up my shot, and fired. And with that, the battle was over. Hades fell and was vanquished to the underworld. I finally did it. I escaped the realm of the dead with just my might and my trusted bow. I had accomplished an enormous challenge and I was finally free. And then I guess Zagreus smelled a flower he was allergic to and was taken by the Stooks. Okay, bye bye. I hope you enjoyed this challenge. Once again, I will humbly ask you to like the video, subscribe to Will Rush if you want to support us, to comment your thoughts about Hades and this run, and share the video with anyone who might be interested. Until we meet again!